Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, I'm going to be taking you guys through the Van Horn Mansion, a house that I just happened to stumble upon, and one that I think you guys should visit as well, and it sort of has a surprising twist. So literally, I was just roaming around. I wasn't looking for this house in particular. In fact, when I saw it, I just kind of noticed like, man, that's kind of a big house for $18.99. So I was kind of curious to see what exactly was going on here. And I mean, if you just take a look at the house from the outside, you can see that it's pretty big. It's got multiple stories. There seems to be a first floor and then sort of a basement. And I honestly didn't even know if there was an interior to this house or if it was just here for show. It did seem to be in a random location. Like Van Horn is not the most luxurious place, at least as far as the Red Dead Redemption 2 map goes. So I was a little bit confused. And then upon entering the house, I noticed that it was incredibly run down. Like this first floor had trash everywhere. There was debris and stuff like that. And then going down in the basement, I found something weird. At first, I thought I came across two guys that were dead. Like you can see one guy on the table and one on the floor, and they literally look like they're passed out. And I was thinking, okay, did I just stumble across one of these secret houses that, I might be able to just grab some money from? Because that's honestly what it seems like. You guys can see that this guy on the table, at least, has his hand on the pile of money. But that is about it. And once again, this entire time, I thought these guys were dead. I mean, they weren't making a single sound. They seriously looked like they were just hunched over. So I was curious what would happen if I took the money from this guy. And the second I put my hand on the money, he popped to life. And it scared me to death, especially doing it in first person because this guy gets so up and personal with you. So I had to end up taking both of them out because the second that you take the money from that guy on the table, the guy on the ground ends up waking up as well, and you ultimately have to deal with him. So that's exactly what I did. I just simply punched them to death, and I had to deal with those strangers in this house. Now from there, I wanted to take what was rightfully mine, and it is $50. Now that amount was so even, I was convinced that this was just more than a random roadside house. And it turns out that that is true. This is actually the Van Horn Mansion, which is one of the 5 or 6 select home robberies in the game. And this interests me for a couple reasons, because usually these home robberies like Willard Rest or the Aberdeen Pig Farm or Catfish Jackson have a significant backstory to them. And I'm always interested and excited to find out what these are. So immediately upon learning this, I wanted to loot our 2 strangers here to see if we could find out some more information. And unfortunately, I didn't get a whole lot. I got just a couple of random loot items, but that for the most part was it. So after that, I decided to explore the rest of the house to see what I could potentially find. I wanted to see if I could come across, a secret or a story or a note or a pamphlet, something that would give us some background information on what's going on here. So I started to open up every single drawer that I could to try and find stuff in this house. But unfortunately, I wasn't finding more than just normal provisions. Now, these normal provisions certainly aren't a bad thing. In fact, a lot of them are quite good, giving you gold cores and whatnot. But it wasn't really what I was looking for. I was looking for, again, a backstory or a letter or a note or a secret compartment that would tell us what happened. So from there, I wanted to move upstairs to see if I could find anything there, because I did notice that there was a chimney upstairs, and typically a lot of the secrets will be stashed in chimneys, but unfortunately going up there didn't lead to anything all that interesting either. So following that, I decided to check outside around the house because there was a lot here. There's that giant overhanging porch area. And once again, the only thing of real significance that I found was a premium cigarette pack and a cigarette card. That's about it. So not a whole lot of exciting stuff was going on at this mansion. Now, I did one more sweep of the house because I wanted to see if I could find anything else. Maybe I had missed something. Again, it doesn't look like that's actually the case. Now, upon reading the strategy guide, I got some information about this. They said that something interesting would happen if you came at night. So when I read that, I wanted to test if, different things would happen if we came during different times of the day. So the time that I arrived in this first encounter was in the morning, 7 or 8 a.m. The next time I wanted to do it was around noon. What if I did this in the middle of the day? And I did notice that something was different, but I think it was random, not necessarily something attached to this home robbery. The thing that was different is these guys were wearing different clothing. This guy at the table specifically has a different jacket. He has a different hat, which might actually be significant for you guys because you can grab the hats that are actually down here that are on these two guys, and they might not be available in stores or they might be rare. So that is something to think about, that, if you do want a different hat or a different outfit, that it does change every time you sort of load back and check on these characters. However, aside from that, they were still doing the exact same thing. We had our first character asleep at the table, holding the money underneath his hand, and we had one character under the floor. Now, this time, what I did was actually do this in third person to give you guys sort of a little bit of a different perspective. It's certainly less terrifying in third person, I will say. And instead of killing them on the spot, this time I wanted to see what would happen if I lassoed them up. Because what I was thinking is maybe if I lassoed them, they might give me some unique lines of dialogue, maybe some backstory on the Van Horn Mansion or something along those lines. But once again, lassoing them up really didn't do all that much. They just wiggled around and they made grunting noises about how they were likely tied up and could not move. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. Overall, I wasn't quite too sure what to think of this place. It was a home robbery, sure, but it didn't provide much of a backstory. In fact, it had so little of a backstory that I almost thought I was completely missing something and that I was doing something wrong. But it turns out that this is, for the most part, the entirety of the home robbery. Now, once you actually visit the home for the first time, you will see that it permanently becomes marked on your map is Van Horn Mansion. And again, it is just south of Van Horn, if that wasn't obvious enough. So if you'd like to visit this area for yourself, get some nice provisions, basically a free $50 for doing absolutely nothing. And I guess one of the nice benefits about this is you don't get a bounty, you don't get a wanted level or anything like that for taking out any of these guys. So it's a great way in which you can do something like this without ruining your honor and without becoming wanted as well, which is something I know a lot of you guys think is important. Now, I still haven't done the final test that the strategy guide said that we should do, and that is if you return at night, something interesting will happen. Like, that literally is what it says in the strategy guide. So I came back for a third and final time, but this time, instead of arriving during the day, we arrived in the dead of night, as you guys can see, at 12 o'clock, basically, 12 a.m., 1 a.m., and it did look a little bit different, mainly the fact it was illuminated on the inside, but it turns out that was just from the lanterns and the candles that these guys ultimately had in here. And when I returned to the basement, once again, everything was the same. So unfortunately, there was no difference. I mean, there's slight differences. This time, our friend wasn't wearing a hat, but that's about it. Now, I tried another scenario where this time, instead of trying to take the money, I ended up, instead of lassoing them or doing anything like that, I simply shot the guy who was at the table, and our friend on the floor woke up very quickly. Talk about a rude awakening with a very loud alarm clock. That's exactly what happened to our friend right here. So I guess that answers the question of what happens if you visit this giant mansion in Van Horn. Well, you're going to find two guys sleeping in the basement or on the lowest level. And if you happen to try and take the money in which this guy is sleeping on top of, he will instantly wake up and will try and stop you. So you sort of do have to be on your toes here. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a hard home robbery at all. You don't get wanted. There's only two guys. So even though Van Horn is a little bit out of the way, like it's on the super west-hand side of the map, I think it's a place that you guys should totally explore. Number one, it's one of the home robberies in game, so I think you should go ahead and tackle that. And number two, it's a great way to get some nice provisions and some money as well. So as always, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. If I missed something at the Van Horn Mansion that you know about, let me know in the comments down below. Reach out to me on Facebook. Say, hey, Mr. Boss, you missed this secret compartment, or there was this buried outside the house. I'd love to hear from you guys, so please let me know if you find something. If you did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.